Well, hello there. I'm Davin, storyteller, magician. This is by Lore and Lamplight. Welcome to my little cabin. You know, as a wizard, people sometimes ask me about maps. Oh, but not any old maps, not the kind of maps you can just grab at a gas station. No, they ask me about real maps, the kind that know where they're going. But I always tell them the same thing. A map is only as good as the person holding it. You see, a map can show you all the paths in the world and still not tell you which one belongs to you. You have to know that before you start walking. And Merrin Mapwright used to know that. Well, she learned that. And that lesson cost her something that she never expected to pay. Now, you may have heard tell of Merrin Mapwright, a cartographer who walked through the Faewild with just blank parchment and a cartographer's key, the one she got from her grandfather's old atlas. Now, on that key were three symbols: a mushroom, a throne, and some runes. She'd found a circle of mushrooms that almost cost her her name and identity. But the throne, well, that had eluded her so far. She'd walked through the forest and found clearings where the trees made perfect circles. She'd followed rivers that changed colors at the bend. She'd slept underneath the stars that moved of their own accord as though they had some place to be. When one morning, if morning is what you can call it in a land where the light never seemed to decide what it wanted to do, there it was, between two oaks whose roots had grown together like they were old friends, a path that hadn't been there the night before. And at the end of it was the Elven throne. Now, that throne was made from a single tree, not carved from it, but grown out of it. The wood was all bent and warped into sweeping arms, a high arched back, with the roots growing up into the balls for the feet of the throne. It was covered in moss and lichen, and from somewhere deep in the grain, a soft light pulsed like a slow heartbeat. As Merrin approached, she could see that it was empty. When she got to the clearing, she stopped, and she did what cartographers do. She observed before she moved. It was beautiful, not in the way that a meadow is pretty, but like a way that a held breath is contained, waiting, full of potential. When she did eventually move forward, as soon as her foot crossed into the clearing, the light in the throne brightened like a lamp turning up in welcome. She got out her parchment and began to sketch. And that's when she heard it, a voice, but not on the outside. She heard it on the inside. But it was coming from beneath the heartbeat of the throne, beneath the moss, the light, and the deep breath of the wood. And the voice said, "Mapwright, you've walked far and seen much, and yet you carry empty pages." Merrin didn't run. She didn't draw a weapon. She didn't carry any. She merely looked up and around, and she spoke. "Well, the pages are empty so that the land might fill them." The voice was silent for a while, and then it spoke again. "Come, sit. There are paths here that none have ever mapped, not because they're hidden, but because none have had the vision to see them. But I can show you. Every hidden door, every forgotten path, every thread between the worlds. Yours, if you wish it." Well, Merrin was quiet for a moment and said, "What would you want in return?" "Only that you stay and keep the throne, that you guide others here, that you mind the crossing between worlds and hold the key." And then quieter, kinder, it said, "You'd never have to wander again." Now, I want you to understand what was being offered here. It wasn't a trick and it wasn't a trap with teeth. It was a genuine gift. Every path, every hidden door, the map to every secret thing. Why, this is the knowledge that wanderers spend their whole life chasing and never quite reach. Well, not only that, but the promise of some place to belong, a place of her own. Well, she sat with that for a long time. I imagine she turned it over in her hands though it were something beautiful and heavy at the same time. After a long while, Merrin asked a question. Not, "Is this real?" and not, "What's the catch?" She asked, "If I take this, will I still be Merrin Mapwright?" And the voice was quiet. And in that quiet, she had her answer. "Thank you, truly," she said. "What you're offering is exceptional. So understand, I mean no disrespect when I say no to it." The light in the throne flickered. When the voice returned, it had an edge. "You would refuse what we're offering? You would walk on with your empty pages and your aching feet?" Merrin rolled up her parchment, nodded. "Yeah, the pages aren't empty because I ain't found nothing. They're empty because the finding is the whole point. As soon as I stop walking and start tending, the map stops being mine and starts being something I'm protecting, not something I'm making." "You're a fool," spat back the throne. Merrin merely shrugged and nodded and said, "I might be a fool, but I'm one that knows her edges, and I don't cross them, not even for something beautiful." And with that, she turned and walked back between those old oak trees, and as the path closed behind her. Now that moment always intrigued me. You see, she didn't get mad, she didn't lecture the throne, and she didn't have to prove the throne wrong to leave. She just knew herself well enough that the offer had no place to land. And that's a rare thing and hard-earned. Most of us, if we're honest, have said yes to things we shouldn't have because they were beautiful, or because they solved a problem we were tired of carrying. We didn't say no because it was ungrateful or prideful, or we were afraid the opportunity would never present itself again. Now, Merrin understood that a boundary isn't a wall you build against the world. No, a boundary is a line that you draw that says, "This is where I end and you begin." And that holding that line quietly, firmly, without apology, isn't aggression, and it's not unkindness. It's merely knowing who you are. That night around the campfire, Merrin took out her parchment and she began to draw and sketch. And she drew the throne on the map, and the way the light pulsed out of it. Next to it in the margin, she wrote, "Beautiful, but not mine." The next morning, she picked up her pack and started walking, started looking for those ruins on that key. To her, the road wasn't a burden to be avoided. It was the whole point. Now then, if you ever find yourself in a clearing with something beautiful in front of you asking you to stay, you'll understand what it cost her to leave and what it was worth. The end. and good night.